I joined Microsoft 17 years ago, and the landscape was very different then. I joined IBM in 1982, and that was a long time before the PC came out. Well, a couple of years anyway. So a lot of things have changed. And in 1982, for example, I worked as a systems engineer on the Tesco account, where the whole of Tesco ran on a 16 megabyte mainframe. Now, my phone has 8 gig of RAM in it, and I'm sure yours has probably got as much, or if not more. So you used to have to write applications in a particular way back then to fit them into 16 megabytes, and they got sub-second response time with 150 concurrent users. How times have changed. What I want to say, cover today, is something that I hear from my customer all the time. I'm working in a public sector customer at the moment, and the CEO or CTO there is constantly saying to me, I want it now. How difficult can it be? And I guess some of you may have heard that sort of thing from your execs as well, or from your staff, or from your customers as well. And it kind of looks a bit like this, I suppose. You've got, on the one side, people saying, boring. And on the other side, you've got people in this room who are saying, well, we need to support this, and we need to work through this, and there's a process to this, blah, blah, blah. Boring! How can I make this real? How can I make this happen? Are the tools there? We had some great presentations today already on some of the tools that are available in this marketplace. I love the comment at the end of the last session, which was, it's still nascent. Yeah, it is. But it's being driven by consumers. It's being driven by, also, funnily enough, by CEOs. So what's on the mind of enterprise leaders in 2014? Well, their priorities, actually, are enhancing the customer experience. Apparently 75% of CEOs from the corporate exec board paper in 2014 said actually this was more important than getting the message out. It was more important than saving money. Enhancing the customer experience and getting engaged employees, great for retention, great for recruitment, and satisfied customers, great for the bottom line. Another thing that's on their mind, know your customers. Let's get some data. Let's find out about our customers. But why do we have to wait for you to come back to the office to type it all in? Surely there's a better way of doing that. So transforming to a digital business, and this doesn't mean taking a paper-based solution and making it digital. It means rethinking completely the way your business is being run. So acquire and exploit data wherever and whenever. I'm not going to talk about big data as it's coined now. I used to call it, well, I suppose I used to call it data warehousing back then, or BI. So there's a lot of data. How can we get the data into the organization faster? How can we act on it faster? And finally, how can I change from a sort of make and sell, and I understand that if you're in a government department, make and sell doesn't really apply to you, but you take the analogy, to much more of a sense and respond. So to sense and respond quickly and beat your competition, you need the data. You need the data there quickly. You become more responsive, and you move from efficiency to iteration. Iterate this thing faster based on the data that's coming in. Now, the data that's coming in, where's it coming from? Well, if I have to wait for you to get back to the office and you're not back in the office until next week, I've lost maybe 3 or 4 days. How about if you could do that right now? So put all those together, and you can see that mobile has a major part to play. Similarly, from a consumer point of view, if you look at some of the global economic drivers, one of the things that we've seen, there's a survey on Reuters to substantiate this, is the consumer population right now is about 2 billion. That's defined as people who spend more than $10 a day worldwide. It's about 2 billion today. That's expected by 2030 to get to about 5 billion. Interestingly, though, the percentage of the West, for that read North America and Europe, while it's about half today, that's going to reduce to about 22%. And actually, the percentage in Asia is going to climb rapidly from 30% to 64% by 2030. So it's a very changing world, and it's a world that we have to adapt and work to, coming back to my previous point about adaptability and iteration. And typically, this is from a survey that the Ministry of Defence commissioned, for what the world would look like in 2045. And typically consumers will be more mobile, and there'll also be greater emphasis on education and less accepting of the status quo, which, I mean, I've never liked status quo. I prefer Manfred Mann, but there you go. By 2015, at least, Manfred Mann's a terrible example to use, isn't it? By 2015, at least 60% of internet users will opt for mobile applications as their first option. Just building on some of the stuff that we've seen earlier. So mobile's important. The point is, mobile should not be an add-on. Now, previously, I've seen customers, they sort of add on security, or they add on instrumentation into their applications. And nowadays, you sort of add on mobile. You do a bit of screen scraping, or you use HTML5 or whatever. Actually, mobile has got to be seen as a first-class citizen in our world. Because consumer-driven technology and always-on connectivity has made mobile the new normal. However, what we're seeing is 60% of employees globally believe that IT is not very good at delivering this sort of stuff. Why? Because it's nascent. It's a new sort of part of the industry, I suppose. And actually, some of the tools are still being built to really make this effective. So the nature of work has changed. But I would say it's not so much mobile, but actually it's ubiquity. Because mobile to me kind of sounds like, well, it's about the device moving around. Well, actually, no, you can be mobile, if you like, but sitting at home. So mobile means working anywhere. So hence, I like the term ubiquity. And some of the things that are driving this ubiquity, what are people doing? Well, they're changing the way they live, they're changing the way they work, they're changing the way they play. So in 2013, the time spent using digital media, so Facebook, Twitter, all that sort of stuff, overtook the time spent watching TV for the first time. So people are getting much more digitally savvy and expectant. Very consumer-driven society. We saw this, and I loved Mark's presentation. Recent survey by Gartner, 20% of enterprise BYOD programs will fail. And you may be part of one of those programs in the audience here. 20% of them will fail. Why? Because you haven't thought it through, it's just too difficult. I have to say, in Microsoft, even in Microsoft, we use CYOD at the moment. Okay? There's no BYOD in Microsoft. CYOD, because it's basically what works at the moment. So we have a good device range. I believe it's only Windows platforms, but others are available. But CYOD is the way to go for us at the moment. But that will change. That will change, and we've seen some good examples of how that is changing already, and I'm sure you'll see more as we go on. The wearables, the Internet of Things, yes, this sort of stuff is going to come on. There's going to be a plethora of information knocking around. And your social graph, as it is, and Microsoft just announced something called Delve, which allows you to sort of see people's social graph and target things, will become much more important. Again, where's the data coming from? It's coming from mobile devices. Similarly, 2017, another from Gartner, personalized data streams to more than 100 apps or services. So, location-sensitive, context-sensitive data, your applications have to be ready for them. This is an interesting one. A third of people, roughly, in the West work on premises, but they frequently work away from their desks. And the majority are unhappy with the mobile capabilities that they have. Now, in terms of that, I saw an interesting, I think it's from Gartner, I'll have to look it up, but apparently 2% of people work in the bathroom. Now, I hope that was an American bathroom, because I've never taken my phone in the shower, and I suggest you don't either. And 1% have worked at funerals. So it's ubiquitous. And we saw this already. 60% will vote for mobile first. So our vision, the Microsoft vision for a mobile-first world, is a phone that lets you get your email on the train and plays music. Thank you very much. Actually, Our vision for a mobile-first world is to develop what we call a fluid experience. And what we mean by that is it disregards time, place, context, and device. What do I mean by that? How many of you here have got Bluetooth in your car? Right. How many of you here have had a call and you take it on your phone and you get in the car and amazingly it comes over your car speakers? Yeah? How about if you could do that with all your apps? So regardless of the context and location which you're in and the device you're using, you know, moving from phone to effectively, you know, hands-free, wouldn't that be great? That is our vision for a mobile-first world. And don't forget that your customers, if I can use a retail example, because retail was the company I worked with before the current public sector company I'm working at currently. Your customers, or the retail customers, probably have more information at their fingertips than the staff in the stores now. And one of the things that Tesco are doing, for example, is they put Wi-Fi, or they're putting Wi-Fi in all their stores, because they recognise that actually not having Wi-Fi in the stores is keeping customers away. The key point, of course, is to make sure that they convert the mobile price checking into an actual sale there and then. But what we're looking at is a fluid experience, regardless of where you are and on what device you're using. So it's not just about device management. Right? I know today's about device management, and that's great, but please do not put in a device management solution and think the job is done. Because no one will thank you for that. What they're looking for is something which really moves the business on. So just some examples of customers that are using these sorts of techniques and technologies. Aston Martin uses a Microsoft MDM solution to manage their devices. The Walsh Group in the States uses a lot of devices to allow their staff to work remotely and to get the data in real time back to the centre. And in fact, if I can just sort of tell you about what my public sector customer is looking at doing at the moment. Now, how can I put this? I work in a public sector organisation which collects money from every single person in this room. You love them. I love them. No, I can't get into your records. One of the things they do is, apparently, not everyone pays all the money they're meant to. I didn't realise that, but apparently some people do. And what they're doing is they have this database, and I've seen it, and you can sort of scroll through it and see actually that, oh, that person on that corner shop actually owes £90,000. Interesting. So what they do is they send out an inspector, and the inspector has a pad of paper and a pen, and he or she goes to the place, and the client is interviewed, and the interview notes are actually legally admissible. Therefore, the notepad has to, if the inspector makes a mistake, they have to actually strike through, and you still have to be able to see what was originally written. Now, that's great. Moving that to a digital world, because wouldn't that be fantastic? Because then the inspector wouldn't have to go back and write up everything. But the notepad is still the legally admissible item in the tribunal. There's only one problem with computers, and that's the delete key and the backspace key. How can you make it legally admissible? Well, one of the things that I've been working with this particular customer is putting together exactly that, and I wrote it in 100 lines of VBA macro. So it can be done, and police are looking at it, other agencies are looking at it as well. The nice thing about it is that the people who want to use this, the actual inspectors, are gagging for this sort of technology, because it means they don't have to go back to the office to write everything up. And it means they can do more calls in a day. Guess how much extra revenue they reckon this will bring in? Per annum, £1 billion. So a good ROI. So to wrap up, we're looking at not device-centric IT, but people-centric IT. We've got to look at users, devices, apps, and data. Yeah, absolutely. Some of it is going to be maybe in a private cloud, maybe some of it even in a public cloud. Some of it is going to be on premises. How do you manage all of that stuff? Okay, there's a lot of stuff to manage there. So we're looking for a solution which allows them to work on the device they want, where they want, in a sort of unified way, regardless of whether you're on premises or in the cloud, and finally, to protect the data. And we've seen some great presentations about that already. So this is the only product slide I'm going to put up. Other systems are apparently available to do this sort of thing. The interesting thing here, though, is that I don't know how many of you use System Center. Any people use System Center here? Okay. Yeah. So the larger enterprises tend to use System Center, but System Center is the sort of Uber console. So it's kind of like your Tivoli or that sort of thing, NetView for OpenView for system and device management. And that's great. And Windows Intune bolts onto System Center to give you a sort of single pane of glass across your devices. So whereas System Center looks after, all the mainstream, if you like, big iron applications and devices, Windows Intune looks after these, including Android and iOS and Windows Phone and others. What I like about this is that it actually is all in one. So I don't have to go to a different application to manage my mobile devices. I actually manage what the user wants. And so how can Microsoft move you from the gentleman on the left? Now, I have to say that there is one great advantage for the gentleman on the left, fantastic battery life. That's about the only thing I can think, because if you want to search for some stuff on his pieces of paper, it takes quite a long time. Depends how fast you can read. How do we move to this sort of environment over here, where actually the data is in real time and the CEOs are happy because they're getting data back as quickly as possible and they can respond to it as quickly as possible? Well, we want to empower teams, so real-time, anywhere access. We want to delight our customers. Everybody wants that, of course, particularly CEOs, and underpin it with one master data, one master app channel and management platform. And so with Microsoft, we provide these sort of devices. Apparently there's a Surface Pro 3 outside, which you can all stroke if you wish. Applications. Your applications, don't think that you can just take existing applications and move them into the mobile world. It may not give the users the greatest of experiences, real-time insights, and management. So, can we help? Can we do it? You want it now? Well, actually, yeah, you can. Needs thinking about, but we can have happy customers as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.